In the quiet town of Ashridge, nestled between thick forests that whispered ancient secrets and rolling hills that stretched endlessly toward the horizon, life moved at a gentle, predictable pace. The streets, lined with towering oaks and maples, held a comforting familiarity for its residents. Faces known by name, doors left unlocked by day, and the soft hum of conversation floating through the air. It was a place where neighbors greeted one another with a nod. Children played beneath the dappled sunlight, and the pulse of the community beat steady and strong. Among its close-knit inhabitants was Jake Mercer, a man whose presence was both understated and resolute. Recently returned from a grueling deployment overseas, Jake carried with him the weight of distant battles, the echoes of commands shouted in foreign tongues, and the quiet ache of a soldier longing for peace. Ashridge was meant to be his sanctuary, a place to heal, to find stillness after years defined by chaos. But fate, as it often does, had other plans. Before we continue, make sure to like and subscribe to never miss a new video. And tell me, where are you watching this video from? I love seeing all different people come together for these stories. By Jake's side was Rex, a German shepherd whose keen eyes reflected a practiced intelligence and unwavering loyalty. More than just a dog, Rex was a partner forged through countless missions in hostile terrain, trained in search and rescue, but attuned to the subtleties of human emotion. Together, they moved through the town with a seamless rhythm. Jake's calm determination mirrored by Rex's alert attentiveness. A team bound not just by duty, but by an unspoken trust. The morning had begun like any other, the sun casting a golden glow over the rooftops and the gentle breeze carrying the scent of pine and earth. Yet beneath the serenity, tension simmered. At the edge of Ashridge, an imposing warehouse stood abandoned for years, its weathered walls scarred by time and neglect. Once a bustling hub of commerce, it now loomed as a forgotten relic, its silence a stark contrast to the vibrant life of the town. Suddenly, a sharp crack shattered the calm. Flames erupted from the warehouse's side, licking hungrily at the wooden beams and sending thick plumes of smoke spiraling skyward. The fire roared with a ferocity that seemed unnatural, consuming everything in its path with relentless appetite. Windows shattered under the heat, and the air filled with the acrid scent of burning timber and chemicals, a signal that this was no ordinary blaze. From a distance, Jake and Rex noticed the rising inferno, the urgency in the flickering flames stirring a primal response. Without hesitation, Rex bolted toward the danger, his powerful legs moving with purpose and speed. Jake, heart pounding and instincts sharpened by years of training, followed close behind, the world narrowing to the path ahead. As they approached, the heat intensified, waves of scorching air washing over them like a physical force. Ash drifted through the sky, falling like dark snow upon the ground. Despite the chaos, Jake's mind remained clear, a calculated calm beneath the storm. He knew the stakes. Lives could be at risk, secrets hidden within the warehouse's depths, and a mystery that demanded resolution. Inside, the darkness was thick and suffocating, pierced only by the flickering glow of flames casting eerie shadows on the walls. The floor creaked beneath their feet, unstable and threatening to give way. Rex's nose twitched, tracking scents invisible to the human senses, guiding Jake deeper into the burning labyrinth. The air grew heavier, each breath a challenge, but neither man nor dog faltered. A faint sound echoed, a cry muffled by the roar of fire and falling debris. Jake's pulse quickened as he pressed forward, driven by the knowledge that someone, or something, was in peril. With every step, the danger multiplied, but his resolve only hardened. The fire was more than a mere accident. It was a deliberate act, a sinister message cloaked in smoke and flame. Outside, the town began to stir. Neighbors gathered, eyes wide with alarm, whispers spreading like wildfire. Fire engines screamed down the narrow streets, their sirens piercing the morning calm. Sarah Thompson, Ashridge's fire chief, arrived swiftly, her presence commanding yet compassionate. She surveyed the scene, her mind racing through protocols and strategies, aware that this was no ordinary blaze. Jake emerged from the warehouse, soot-streaked and breathing heavily, a young woman cradled in his arms. Her eyes fluttered open, filled with confusion and fear, but alive, saved from the inferno by a man and his dog who refused to turn away. The crowd exhaled collectively, relief mingling with lingering dread. Sarah approached Jake, her expression a mixture of gratitude and concern. "You and your dog," she said, nodding toward Rex, who sat alert by Jake's side. "You saved her life. But this fire, it's no accident. We think someone wants to send a message." Jake wiped sweat from his brow, his gaze fixed on the burning warehouse. "I've seen this before," he murmured. "It's connected to something bigger, something dangerous." The flames continued to consume the building. But in the hearts of Ashridge's people, a new fire was kindling, a spark of determination to uncover the truth. For Jake, the quiet town he had sought as a refuge was transforming into a battleground, where courage and loyalty would be tested, and where the bond between a man and his dog would become the town's beacon of hope. As the sun climbed higher, casting light on the smoke-streaked sky, Jake and Rex stood at the edge of the inferno, ready to face whatever darkness lay beyond the flames. The story of Ashridge was just beginning, and its chapters would be written in acts of bravery, friendship, and an unyielding quest for justice. The fire had been quelled, but its embers still glowed faintly beneath the charred remains of the warehouse, a smoldering reminder of the chaos that had erupted on the edge of Ashridge. As the town's residents gathered in small clusters, exchanging worried glances and hushed speculations, Jake Mercer sat quietly on the hood of a fire engine, his gaze fixed on the twisted wreckage. Beside him, Rex lay alert, ears twitching at every distant sound, ready to spring into action if needed. The bond between Jake and Rex was something deeper than companionship. It was forged in the crucible of shared trials, honed through years of military service and countless missions across hostile territories. Jake recalled the first time he and Rex had met, a scrawny pup with bright eyes and an indomitable spirit, destined to become more than just a dog. Together, they had faced dangers most could never imagine, navigating war zones and disaster sites, their synergy a lifeline amid chaos. Now, back in Ashridge, that connection was a source of strength. Rex's keen senses complemented Jake's strategic mind, and together they functioned as a seamless unit. The rescue from the burning warehouse was a testament to that trust, a moment when instinct and training converged to save a life. Jake's thoughts drifted to the young woman he had carried from the inferno. Her name was Emily, a local who had been trapped inside while investigating the warehouse for reasons unknown. She was stable now, tended to by paramedics, but the mystery of why she was there gnawed at Jake's mind. The fire was no accident. Someone had set it deliberately, and Emily's presence suggested a connection deeper than mere happenstance. As the sun dipped lower, casting long shadows over the town, Jake rose and approached Sarah Thompson, Ashridge's fire chief. She stood by the perimeter, clipboard in hand, her face etched with concern and determination. "Sarah," Jake began, his voice low but steady. "This fire, it's more than just arson. I can feel it. The way it spread, the timing. It's a message." Sarah nodded grimly. I've dealt with my share of fires here, Jake. But this one was different, calculated. Whoever did this wanted to send a warning or cover something up. Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of Sheriff Tom Harding, a man whose grizzled exterior masked a cautious mind. He approached with measured steps, casting a wary glance at Jake. "We appreciate what you did today," he said. "But I have to ask, what exactly do you think is going on? This town's not used to this kind of trouble." Jake met the sheriff's gaze evenly. "There's more beneath the surface, Tom. Illegal activities, maybe smuggling or worse. That warehouse wasn't just abandoned. It was a front." The sheriff's eyes flickered with unease, but he said nothing more. Instead, he turned to Sarah. "We'll need your reports as soon as possible. And Jake, if you find out anything, you come straight to me." Jake nodded, though he sensed the sheriff's reluctance. A man caught between protecting his town and confronting a darkness he didn't fully understand. As night settled over Ashridge, Jake returned to his small rental cabin on the outskirts, Rex trotting faithfully at his side. The quiet was a stark contrast to the day's turmoil, but Jake's mind remained restless. He sat at a worn wooden table, rifling through files and notes he had gathered since arriving in town. Among them were maps, local business records, and fragmented reports hinting at a network operating in the shadows. Rex rested his head on Jake's knee, sensing the tension. Jake reached down, running his fingers through the dog's thick fur, drawing on the comfort of their bond. Together, they had faced worse than this. But Ashridge was different. Here, the enemy was not just faceless militants or distant threats. It was woven into the fabric of a community he had come to care about. The next morning, Jake met with Emily at the local hospital. She was weak but determined, her eyes reflecting the trauma of her ordeal. She explained that she had been investigating rumors about the warehouse, claims of illicit shipments and suspicious activity that no one wanted to acknowledge. "They say it's just an old building," Emily whispered. "But I know there's more. People here are scared to talk, but I wanted to find out the truth." Jake listened intently, the pieces beginning to align. The fire, the threats, the silence. It was all part of a larger puzzle. He promised Emily he would do everything in his power to uncover what lay hidden behind the warehouse's burned walls. Back on the streets of Ashridge, whispers of the fire spread quickly. Some residents speculated about insurance fraud, others about criminal retribution. But beneath the surface, a palpable fear lingered. Fear that the town's peace was fragile, threatened by forces beyond their control. Sarah and her fire crew worked tirelessly to compile reports, their faces weary but resolute. She confided in Jake about past investigations that had stalled, about threats that had silenced witnesses, and the difficulty of battling an enemy that hid behind shadows and intimidation. Jake's military instincts sharpened with every conversation. He made it clear to Sarah that he wasn't here just as a visitor or a rescuer, but as someone prepared to fight for Ashridge's safety. Together, they began mapping out a strategy to gather intelligence, knowing that stealth and patience would be essential. Rex remained Jake's constant companion, his senses alert to every detail. The dog's training was invaluable, not just for search and rescue, but as an early warning system against danger. Jake found himself relying on Rex not only for physical support, but as a grounding presence amid the swirling uncertainty. One evening, as Jake walked Rex through the quiet streets, he noticed figures lurking near the outskirts, shadowy silhouettes that melted into the darkness when approached. The message was clear. They were being watched. Jake's jaw tightened. The fire was just the beginning. Whoever was behind this wanted to intimidate, to silence those who dared to pry. But Jake Mercer was not a man to back down. He returned home, laying out his gear and preparing for the days ahead. The bond with Rex was a lifeline, a reminder that even in the face of mounting threats, loyalty and courage could pierce through the darkest smoke. Ashridge was no longer just a refuge, it was a battleground, and Jake was ready to take a stand. The morning air carried a crispness that belied the weight settling over Ashridge. The smell of smoke still lingered faintly in the breeze, a reminder of the fire that had shaken the town's fragile peace. Jake Mercer stood outside the fire station, where Sarah Thompson coordinated her crew with the practiced efficiency of a seasoned leader. The tension was palpable, but beneath it lay an unspoken resolve, a quiet determination to face the threats looming over their community. Jake approached Sarah, his gaze steady. "We need to talk," he said, his voice low but urgent. Sarah nodded, leading him inside the station where the hum of radios and the clatter of equipment filled the room. She gestured toward a worn conference table scattered with maps and reports. "I've been digging into the fire, the warehouse, and the rumors swirling around it," she began. "There's more going on here than anyone wants to admit." Jake leaned forward, eyes scanning the documents. "What have you found?" "Local businesses have reported unusual activity, strange deliveries, unexplained visitors. Some say the warehouse was used as a drop point for smuggling," Sarah explained. "But every time someone tries to get concrete proof, they hit a wall. Intimidation, threats, even vandalism." Jake's jaw tightened. "Sounds like they're running a protection racket or worse. We need to be careful. If this syndicate has that kind of reach, they won't hesitate to silence us." Sarah's expression hardened. "That's why I'm glad you're here, Jake. Your experience, your team. You're what we need to push back." Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of Deputy Mark Ellis, a man whose nervous energy betrayed his unease. "Chief Thompson, Jake," he said hurriedly. "There's been another incident. One of our fire crew found graffiti on the warehouse ruins, threatening messages." Jake exchanged a grim look with Sarah. The warnings were escalating. Sarah gestured toward the door. "Come on, we need to see this." Outside, the charred remains of the warehouse bore fresh scars, words sprayed in bold, menacing letters. "Stay out or pay the price." The message was clear and the threat unmistakable. Jake crouched beside the blackened wall, his mind racing. This isn't just intimidation. They want to control the narrative, keep people scared into silence. Sarah's eyes met his. "We need allies. Someone to help us gather intel, to stand up to these criminals." Jake nodded slowly. "I might know someone. A teammate from my SEAL days, Marcus. He's skilled in intelligence and tactical operations. I'll reach out." The weight of their mission settled over them, but so did a flicker of hope. Together, they would build a resistance. Later that day, Jake met Marcus at a quiet cafe on Main Street. Marcus was a broad-shouldered man with sharp eyes and a calm demeanor, the kind of presence that steadied nerves in the most chaotic moments. "Jake." Marcus greeted him with a firm handshake. "I heard about the fire. Sounds like Ashridge needs some backup." Jake nodded. "It's worse than it seems. Smuggling, threats, and now intimidation tactics. We're dealing with a syndicate that's deeply embedded." Marcus leaned in. "Count me in. I've got contacts and resources. Let's start gathering intel and figure out how to dismantle this operation." Back at the fire station, Sarah coordinated with Jake and Marcus, outlining a plan to monitor the warehouse ruins and nearby areas for suspicious activity. They enlisted a small, trusted group from the community, people willing to stand against the growing darkness. Jake and Marcus spent evenings scanning records, analyzing patterns, and mapping out the syndicate's possible routes. Rex, ever vigilant, accompanied them, his trained senses alert to every anomaly. Meanwhile, Sarah led efforts to support her fire crew, who had become targets of intimidation. She held meetings to boost morale and ensure that no one faced threats alone. The community's resolve began to strengthen, though fear still lingered. One afternoon, Jake and Sarah walked through Ashridge's town square, observing the wary faces and whispered conversations. The fire had exposed vulnerabilities, but it also ignited a spark, a shared desire to reclaim their town. "People are scared," Sarah said softly, "but they're also starting to talk. That's progress." Jake nodded. "We just need to give them a reason to believe that change is possible." As days passed, Jake's partnership with Sarah deepened, their combined skills complementing each other. She respected his military precision. He admired her unwavering dedication to the town's safety. Their alliance became a beacon for others, drawing in volunteers and supporters. Together, they organized watch groups, shared information discreetly, and prepared for the challenges ahead. One evening, as Jake reviewed surveillance footage from a hidden camera near the warehouse, Rex suddenly growled softly, ears pricked. Jake's eyes narrowed as a shadowy figure appeared on the screen, moving cautiously among the ruins. "This is it," Jake whispered. "Our first real lead." Sarah's voice crackled over the radio. "Stay safe. We're mobilizing a response team." The hunt had begun. With trust forged in the fires of adversity, Jake, Sarah, Marcus, and Rex stepped into the dark heart of Ashridge's mystery, ready to confront the threats threatening to consume their home. The days following the initial surveillance had settled into a deceptive calm over Ashridge. The town streets bustled with the usual rhythms, shopkeepers greeting early customers, children laughing on worn sidewalks, and the distant hum of engines weaving through the narrow lanes. Yet beneath this ordinary surface, a tension lingered. A whisper of unease carried on the breeze like the last tendrils of smoke from the burnt warehouse. Jake Mercer sat in the dimly lit back room of the fire station, the glow of a laptop screen illuminating his focused expression. Beside him, Marcus sifted through a stack of documents, each paper a fragment in the puzzle they were desperately trying to solve. The surveillance footage had offered more questions than answers, and the shadowy figure captured moving through the ruins only deepened the mystery. Suddenly, the door creaked open, and Sarah Thompson entered, her face set with determination, but shadowed by exhaustion. "We need to talk," she said, voice low but urgent. Jake gestured for her to sit. "We've been going over the footage again. That figure, it's the same person spotted near the fire site last week." Sarah nodded grimly. "I've been in touch with the insurance company. They sent a man named Victor Crane to assess the damage, but something about him doesn't sit right." Marcus frowned. "Insurance adjusters show up all the time after incidents like this. What's suspicious about this one?" Sarah pulled a photo from her folder. Victor Crane, a man in his 40s with sharp features and eyes that seemed to calculate everything at once. He's been asking questions no adjuster should, probing about the building's contents, the security measures, even the people who were inside before the fire. Jake leaned back, fingers steepled. "Sounds like a cover. If the fire was set to hide something, Victor might be there to make sure the insurance claim goes smoothly, or to ensure no one digs too deep." Sarah's voice dropped further. "I checked his background. No local ties, no clear history in the insurance field. It's like he appeared out of nowhere." Marcus exchanged a glance with Jake. "We're dealing with professionals, someone who knows how to manipulate the system and keep things under wraps." The room fell silent, the weight of the revelation settling around them. Outside, the wind rustled through the trees, as if carrying the secrets they sought to uncover. Determined to dig deeper, Jake arranged a discreet meeting with Sheriff Tom Harding, hoping to leverage official channels without alerting those who might be watching. The sheriff's office was cramped and cluttered, a stark contrast to the quiet dignity of the man behind the desk. Tom's eyes narrowed as Jake outlined their suspicions. "Victor Crane, huh? I've heard the name whispered around, but nothing concrete. Insurance fraud, smuggling. These kinds of operations often attract shadowy figures." Jake's gaze was steady. "We need to find out who he really is and what he's after. If he's tied to the fire, he's a key player in whatever's going on." The sheriff sighed, rubbing the bridge of his nose. "I'll pull what records I can, but be careful, Jake. This town has its limits on how far it wants to go." Back at the fire station, Sarah coordinated with her crew, increasing patrols around the warehouse site and nearby businesses. The threat had transformed from a distant menace to an immediate danger, and everyone felt the pressure. One evening, as Jake reviewed new information, Rex suddenly stiffened, ears perked and tail bristling. The dog's instincts, honed through years of service, were alerting him to something unseen. Jake rose, following Rex to the window overlooking the street. A sleek black car rolled past, its tinted windows shielding the occupants from view. The vehicle slowed deliberately, then accelerated, disappearing into the night. Jake's gut tightened, a silent message from those who wished to remain hidden. "This is more than just a fire," Jake muttered. "It's a warning." As the investigation deepened, Jake, Sarah, and Marcus began to piece together a larger picture. The warehouse had been a front for smuggling, a hub for illicit goods moving through Ashridge under the cover of darkness. Victor Crane's arrival was no coincidence. He was the insurance company's pawn, ensuring the cover-up stayed intact. But the syndicate's reach extended beyond the warehouse. Jake discovered links to local officials and business owners, tangled in a web of corruption that made the fight for truth all the more perilous. One afternoon, Sarah confided in Jake as they walked through the town square. "People are afraid to speak out because they don't know who to trust. The syndicate's influence runs deep." Jake nodded. "That's why we have to be smart. Gather evidence, expose them slowly. If we rush in, we'll only push them further underground." Marcus joined them, holding up a folder thick with documents. "I managed to get some intel on Victor Crane. Aliases, past arrests, ties to organized crime in other states. He's a dangerous man." The trio exchanged determined looks. Their mission had grown beyond a simple arson case. It was a battle against a shadow network threatening to consume Ashridge from within. As night fell, Jake stood alone near the ruins of the warehouse, the wind carrying the faint scent of smoke and secrets. Rex sat faithfully beside him, eyes scanning the darkness. The fire had been a spark, igniting a chain of events that would test their courage and resolve. And as the shadows deepened, Jake knew one thing with certainty. The fight was far from over. The days that followed brought a mounting storm of threats and shadows that seemed to stretch across Ashridge like an unshakable fog. Jake Mercer, Sarah Thompson, and Marcus found themselves navigating a landscape that was no longer just about uncovering the truth. It was about survival. The syndicate they were up against was not only cunning but ruthless. And the deeper they delved, the more they realized the cost of their pursuit. Jake sat in the dim glow of his cabin, the soft hum of a radio breaking the silence. Messages crackled intermittently, coded warnings, fragments of conversations intercepted by Marcus's network. Each piece painted a darker picture. The syndicate was growing aware of their investigation, and the stakes had escalated beyond mere intimidation. A sharp knock at the door startled Jake. Opening it, he found Sarah, her face pale but resolute. "We've got trouble," she said quietly, stepping inside. Before Jake could respond, the radio blared again, a frantic call from the fire station. "Chief Thompson, this is Mark. Someone's been tampering with the reports. Our fire crew's been pressured to alter the investigation findings. It's happening right under our noses." Sarah's jaw clenched. "They're trying to rewrite the story, Jake. Make it look like an accident. If they succeed, everything we've worked for will be buried." Jake nodded, his mind already racing. "We need to protect the crew, make sure they know we've got their backs. This isn't just a fight against criminals. It's a battle for the truth itself." The pressure on Sarah's team intensified. Firefighters who once stood proud and unyielding now looked over their shoulders, wary of unseen eyes. Threatening notes appeared, scrawled warnings left on vehicles, anonymous calls in the dead of night. Yet, despite the fear, a quiet courage began to emerge within the ranks, buoyed by Sarah's unwavering support. Meanwhile, Jake and Marcus focused on gathering concrete evidence to dismantle the syndicate's smuggling operations. Late nights were spent analyzing shipment records, cross-referencing local businesses with known fronts, and tracing the movement of illicit goods. The warehouse fire was just the tip of an iceberg, concealing a network that spanned far beyond Ashridge's borders. One evening, as Jake reviewed a series of intercepted communications, Rex suddenly growled, alerting him to footsteps approaching the cabin. Jake moved swiftly, peering through the window as shadows flickered past. A figure lingered, a warning left in the darkness. The message was clear. They were being watched, and the syndicate would stop at nothing to protect their secrets. The following day, Jake and Sarah convened with local law enforcement and federal agents newly assigned to the case. The room was thick with tension as officials laid out their findings: smuggling routes, arms trafficking, and financial ties linking the syndicate to influential figures. Sarah spoke with grim determination. "This isn't just about Ashridge. It's a network that threatens communities beyond our town. We have to act decisively." Jake's gaze hardened. "We'll coordinate a tactical response. But first, we need to ensure the safety of those who could be caught in the crossfire." Plans were drawn, teams assembled, and roles assigned. Marcus coordinated intelligence gathering, while Jake prepared for a high-risk operation designed to intercept the syndicate's next shipment, a critical move to cripple their activities. As the day of the operation approached, the atmosphere in Ashridge grew charged. Rumors swirled, and the town held its breath, caught between hope and fear. On the night of the raid, storm clouds gathered overhead, casting a pall over the landscape. Jake, Marcus, and Rex moved silently through the shadows, their movements synchronized and deliberate. The syndicate's hideout was nestled in a remote area, guarded by well-armed sentries and sophisticated surveillance. The tension was palpable as they approached, every sense heightened. Suddenly, a flicker of movement. An ambush sprung from the darkness. Gunfire erupted, echoing through the night as Jake and his team engaged the enemy with precision and courage. Rex darted through the chaos, his keen instincts guiding him to protect Jake and locate hostages caught in the crossfire. The dog's bravery turned the tide, allowing the team to secure the area and neutralize the threat. In the aftermath, key members of the syndicate were arrested, and a cache of illegal arms was seized. Federal agents moved swiftly to contain the fallout, working to dismantle the network piece by piece. Back in Ashridge, the community began to breathe easier, the shadows receding slightly under the weight of justice served. The fire chief gathered her crew, honoring their resilience and dedication in the face of terror. Jake stood with Sarah and Marcus. the bonds forged in battle stronger than ever. The road ahead remained uncertain, but together they had taken the first steps toward reclaiming their town. In the quiet that followed, Jake looked down at Rex, the dog's eyes reflecting the unspoken promise of loyalty and protection. Ashridge was healing, but the fight for its future was far from over. The dawn broke over Ashridge with a muted light, filtering softly through the thick canopy of trees that surrounded the small town. The aftermath of the recent raid lingered in the air, an uneasy quiet punctuated by murmurs of relief and cautious optimism. But for Jake Mercer and his team, the victory was only a prelude to the challenges ahead. Inside the fire station's briefing room, Jake sat across from Marcus, their faces illuminated by the glow of a laptop screen, displaying detailed maps and intercepted communications. Sarah stood nearby, her arms crossed, listening intently as they laid out the next phase of their plan. "We've disrupted their shipment, but that's just one node in a much larger network," Marcus explained, tapping the screen to highlight a series of locations scattered across the region. "Their operations are spread out: arms trafficking, smuggling routes, money laundering. We need to gather intelligence on their next moves before they regroup." Sarah nodded. "And we have to do it quietly. If word gets out that we're closing in, they'll scatter and go deeper underground." Jake's eyes met hers, steady and resolute. "That's why I called in a few trusted contacts from my SEAL team. They specialize in intelligence gathering and covert operations. We'll assemble a small unit to infiltrate and monitor their activities." Over the next several days, the plan took shape. Marcus coordinated with federal agencies to provide support, while Jake reached out to his former teammates, seasoned operatives skilled in reconnaissance and tactical response. The team was lean but formidable, each member bringing a unique expertise essential for the mission's success. Meanwhile, Ashridge itself began to stir with cautious hope. Sarah worked tirelessly to rebuild trust within the community, organizing meetings to encourage residents to share information and stand united against the syndicate's influence. The fire crew, once shaken by threats and intimidation, found renewed purpose in their role as protectors of the town. One evening, Jake and Sarah walked through the quiet streets, the fading light casting long shadows over the storefronts and homes. The town felt fragile, yet alive, its heartbeat steady despite the turmoil. "People need to believe we can protect them," Sarah said softly. "That's why this operation is so important. We have to show them that we're fighting for Ashridge's future." Jake nodded. "And we'll do whatever it takes." As preparations continued, Rex remained Jake's constant companion, alert, disciplined, and ever ready. The dog's presence was a steadying force, a reminder of the bond between man and animal forged in adversity. The day of the infiltration arrived under a sky heavy with clouds. Jake's team moved with practiced precision, slipping into the shadows around the syndicate's suspected hideouts. Their mission was clear: gather concrete evidence of illegal activities, identify key players, and prepare for a decisive strike. Using a combination of surveillance equipment and on-the-ground observation, the team mapped out the syndicate's operations in real time. They uncovered stash points, communication hubs, and the routes used to transport contraband. Each discovery brought them closer to dismantling the network. But the operation was not without risk. The syndicate's guards were vigilant, employing patrols and surveillance cameras. The team had to navigate a web of danger, relying on stealth and split-second decisions to avoid detection. One night, as Jake monitored a feed from a hidden camera, Rex suddenly growled low, ears twitching. Jake's eyes snapped to movement, a figure approaching the perimeter, cautious and deliberate. Signaling silently, Jake alerted his team, preparing for a possible confrontation. The figure paused, then retreated into the darkness. Jake exhaled slowly, the tension easing but the warning clear. They were not alone, and their presence was being noticed. Back at their base, the team reviewed the gathered intelligence. The picture that emerged was grim but actionable. The syndicate was planning a major shipment, likely arms or contraband, to be moved through Ashridge within days. Sarah's voice was firm. "We have to be ready. This is our chance to strike a decisive blow." Marcus outlined the tactical plan, coordinating with local law enforcement and federal agents to secure key locations and intercept the shipment. Jake's team would provide on-the-ground support, using their knowledge of the terrain and the syndicate's habits to outmaneuver them. As the operation neared, Ashridge held its breath. The community rallied quietly, volunteers and officials working in concert to safeguard their town. The lines between friend and foe blurred as trust was tested and alliances forged. On the eve of the raid, Jake stood outside his cabin, Rex by his side, the night air cool and still. His thoughts were focused, the weight of responsibility heavy but clear. "This is it, boy," he murmured, patting Rex's head. "We're going in to end this." The storm that had gathered on the horizon mirrored the brewing battle ahead, a tempest of courage, strategy, and determination. Together with his team, Jake stepped into the shadows, ready to face whatever dangers lay in wait. The fate of Ashridge rested on their shoulders, and failure was not an option. The night hung heavy over Ashridge, thick clouds blotting out the stars as a low rumble of thunder echoed in the distance. Rain began to fall in cold sheets, drumming against the dense canopy of trees and the weathered rooftops of the town. Beneath this storm-laden sky, Jake Mercer and his team moved with deliberate silence, shadows blending seamlessly into the darkness. Their destination was a secluded compound nestled deep within the forest, an unassuming warehouse that had become the nerve center of the syndicate's latest operations. Intelligence had revealed that a shipment was scheduled to pass through here tonight, and Jake's team was tasked with intercepting it before the illegal cargo could spread through Ashridge and beyond. Jake adjusted the strap of his tactical gear, his senses heightened by years of training and battlefield experience. Beside him, Rex moved with quiet confidence, muscles taut and eyes scanning every flicker of movement. The dog's presence was a constant reassurance in the tension-filled night. Marcus crouched nearby, whispering into a radio as the rest of the team fanned out, taking up strategic positions around the perimeter. The plan was precise: secure the area, neutralize any threats, and protect any innocents caught in the crossfire. As the minutes stretched, the distant sound of engines grew louder, heavy trucks rolling cautiously along a dirt road, their headlights masked to avoid detection. Jake signaled, and the team tightened their grip on their weapons, readying for the confrontation. Suddenly, spotlights snapped on, slicing through the darkness like blades. Armed guards emerged from the compound, their shouts piercing the storm. The element of surprise was lost, and chaos erupted. Gunfire cracked sharply, echoing through the trees as Jake and his team engaged the enemy with practiced precision. Bullets tore through the air, the clash of wills underscored by the relentless patter of rain. Jake moved fluidly, covering his teammates and coordinating their advances through hand signals and quiet commands. Rex darted through the turmoil, weaving between shadows and fallen debris. His training kicked in as he located hostages trapped near the loading docks. Civilians caught in the crossfire, innocent lives endangered by the syndicate's ruthless grip. With a low growl, Rex alerted Jake, guiding him toward the trapped individuals. Jake moved swiftly, his voice calm but urgent, as he directed the hostages to safety. The dog's keen senses proved invaluable, detecting hidden threats and warning of impending danger. Amid the firefight, Jake found himself face to face with a heavily armed guard attempting to flank his position. Instinct and training surged through him as he disarmed the assailant in a swift, brutal maneuver, incapacitating him without hesitation. The battle raged on, each moment a test of endurance and resolve. Jake's team pressed forward, clearing rooms and securing the compound piece by piece. The rain soaked through their gear, but their focus remained unbroken. Suddenly, a deafening explosion rocked the warehouse, a trap set by the syndicate to cover their escape. Flames licked at the wooden beams, smoke billowing thick and acrid. Jake's heart pounded as he assessed the situation, knowing time was running short. "Fall back," he shouted, signaling his team to regroup. Rex stayed close, alert for any stragglers. As they retreated into the safety of the surrounding forest, Jake cast a final glance at the burning compound. Despite the destruction, the mission had succeeded. The shipment was intercepted, key operatives captured, and the syndicate's grip on Ashridge weakened. Breathing heavily, Jake regrouped with Marcus and Sarah, their faces illuminated by the flickering glow of the fire. The storm began to abate, the rain easing into a steady drizzle. "We did it," Sarah said quietly, relief mingling with exhaustion. Jake nodded, eyes scanning the horizon. "This is just the beginning. There's more work to do, but tonight, we struck a decisive blow." Rex settled at Jake's feet, his body tired but alert. The bond between them was unspoken yet profound, a partnership forged in fire and battle. As the first light of dawn crept over Ashridge, the town stirred awake, unaware of the fierce battle that had raged in its shadows. But for Jake, Sarah, Marcus, and Rex, the night's victory was a beacon, a promise that even in the darkest storms, courage and loyalty could illuminate the path forward. The dawn's first light filtered gently through the tall pines surrounding Ashridge, casting a soft glow over the town's quiet streets. The storm had passed, leaving behind a fresh, earthy scent mingled with the lingering smoke from the burned warehouse compound. The air was heavy with a mixture of relief and anticipation as the community began to stir, unaware of the fierce battle waged in their shadows just hours before. At the town hall, a steady stream of law enforcement officers and federal agents moved with purpose. The operation's success had brought swift action. Key members of the syndicate were in custody, their network unraveling under the weight of evidence painstakingly gathered by Jake Mercer and his team. The local sheriff's office, once cautious and hesitant, now worked hand in hand with federal authorities, their combined efforts signaling a new era of vigilance. Inside the fire station, Sarah Thompson addressed her crew, her voice carrying the steady authority that had become a beacon of strength for the town. "You've all shown incredible courage and resilience," she said, her eyes meeting those of the firefighters who had faced intimidation and threats. "This community owes you a debt of gratitude for standing strong when it mattered most." Jake stood at the back, watching the scene unfold with a quiet pride. His partnership with Sarah had grown into a formidable alliance, one rooted in mutual respect and a shared commitment to protect Ashridge. Marcus joined him, his expression reflective but resolute. "The syndicate's grip is broken," Marcus said, nodding toward the flurry of activity outside. "But we can't let our guard down. There's always someone waiting to fill the void." Jake's gaze hardened. "We need to help the town heal and build a defense strong enough to keep this from happening again." Over the following days, law enforcement worked tirelessly to process arrests, secure evidence, and dismantle the smuggling routes that had plagued the area. Federal agents coordinated with local officials to implement measures aimed at preventing the resurgence of criminal activity. The community rallied, offering support to those affected and volunteering to strengthen neighborhood watch programs. Meanwhile, Sarah oversaw repairs and improvements to the fire station, ensuring her crew had the resources and training necessary to face future challenges. The firefighters, once fearful and uncertain, now carried a renewed sense of purpose, their unity a testament to the town's resilience. Jake took time to visit Emily, the young woman rescued from the warehouse fire weeks earlier. Her recovery was progressing steadily, and her spirit remained unbroken despite the ordeal. Their conversations deepened Jake's understanding of the syndicate's reach and the impact of its corruption on everyday lives. One afternoon, Jake and Sarah stood together near the town square, watching as children played beneath the trees and neighbors exchanged warm greetings. The scars left by recent events were still visible: boarded windows, repaired fences, but the atmosphere was lighter, hope threading through the community like new roots taking hold. "Ashridge is healing," Sarah said softly, "but it's going to take time." Jake nodded. "And vigilance. We have to protect what we've rebuilt." That evening, a ceremony was held in the town hall to honor the bravery and dedication of those who had stood against the darkness. Firefighters, law enforcement officers, and volunteers were recognized for their unwavering commitment. Jake, Marcus, and Sarah received commendations, their efforts acknowledged not just as acts of heroism, but as the foundation for a safer future. As speeches were made and applause filled the room, Jake's thoughts drifted to Rex, waiting patiently outside. The dog's loyalty had been a constant through every trial, a reminder of the unbreakable bond between man and companion. Later, standing alone on a quiet street, Jake reflected on the journey that had brought him here. From a soldier seeking peace to a protector fighting for a community's survival. The challenges were far from over, but the path forward was clearer. Ashridge was awakening from a long shadow, and with its people united, it was ready to face whatever came next. The crisp autumn air filled the town square of Ashridge, carrying with it the scent of fallen leaves and the quiet promise of renewal. The community had gathered beneath a sky brushed with soft hues of orange and pink, the early evening light casting a warm glow over familiar faces. It was a day marked not only by ceremony, but by a collective breath held and now released. A celebration of resilience, courage, and the road ahead. Inside the modest town hall, the atmosphere buzzed with a mixture of pride and reflection. Sarah Thompson stood at the podium, her voice steady as she addressed the assembled crowd of firefighters, law enforcement officers, volunteers, and townspeople. Her words honored the sacrifices made and the strength shown in the face of adversity. Jake Mercer sat near the front, flanked by Marcus and other allies who had stood shoulder to shoulder through the storm. The commendations they received were tangible acknowledgments of their dedication. Yet, to Jake, the true reward lay in the renewed spirit of Ashridge itself. As names were called and applause erupted, the sense of community deepened. Neighbors embraced, sharing stories of hardship and hope, while children darted through the crowd, their laughter a bright counterpoint to the solemnity of the occasion. Later, Jake stepped outside, the cool evening air brushing against his skin. Rex waited patiently at his side, tail wagging gently in the fading light. For a moment, Jake allowed himself to breathe fully, the tension of recent months easing like the settling dust after a storm. Yet beneath the surface, a quiet uncertainty lingered. The commendations and ceremonies marked an end to one chapter. But the question of what came next weighed heavily on Jake's mind. The military offered a structured path, orders, missions, a clear sense of purpose. But Ashridge had become more than just a temporary refuge. Days later, Jake found himself in a small office at the edge of town, poring over plans and proposals. Ideas had taken shape, concepts for a training center dedicated to K-9 rescue teams and veterans, a place where skills could be honed and healing fostered. It was a vision born from experience and hope, a bridge between his past and the future he sought to build. Sarah stopped by, her presence a steadying influence. "This is a good idea, Jake. The town needs something like this, and so do you." He looked up, a faint smile touching his lips. "It feels right. A way to give back and to create something lasting." Together, they discussed logistics, funding, and community involvement. The plans were ambitious, but grounded in the reality of Ashridge's needs and the potential of its people. Outside, Rex lay at their feet, eyes watching with quiet loyalty. His journey mirrored Jake's, a story of service, trust, and unwavering commitment. As weeks turned into months, the training center began to take shape, drawing support from veterans, local leaders, and residents eager to contribute. The project became a symbol of renewal, a testament to the power of resilience and the bonds forged through shared struggle. Jake found himself at the crossroads of his life, balancing the discipline of military service with the freedom of building a new path. The community had embraced him, not just as a protector, but as a partner in its future. One evening, standing on the porch of his modest home, Jake gazed out over the quiet streets of Ashridge. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows that danced with the last light. Rex rested at his side, head on his paws, content in the peace they had earned. In that moment, Jake felt the weight of his journey. The battles fought, the lives saved, and the promise of what lay ahead. The path was uncharted, but it was his to walk. Ashridge had given him purpose beyond the call of duty, and with each new day, he was ready to meet the challenges and opportunities that awaited. The bonds of loyalty, resilience, and hope had woven a new tapestry, one that would endure and inspire for years to come. The morning sun spilled gently over the rolling hills surrounding Ashridge, painting the town in hues of amber and gold. The quiet streets awakened with the soft murmur of daily life. Birds chirped from the branches overhead, shopkeepers raised their shutters, and a gentle breeze carried the scent of pine and fresh earth. In this peaceful tableau, Jake Mercer found a sense of belonging he had long sought but rarely felt. His small training center, nestled at the edge of town where the forest met open fields, had become a beacon, not just for veterans seeking purpose, but for K-9 teams committed to search and rescue. The building itself was simple but sturdy, echoing the spirit of those who walked through its doors, resilient, determined, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Inside, Jake moved among the trainees and their dogs, offering guidance born from years of experience. Rex trotted alongside him, his keen eyes watching over the sessions with quiet pride. The bond between man and dog was palpable, a connection forged in trust, courage, and unspoken understanding. One afternoon, as the sun filtered through tall windows, Sarah Thompson visited the center, her presence a welcome reminder of the community's support. They stood together, watching a drill, where a team practiced navigating a challenging course designed to simulate disaster zones. "This place is more than a training ground," Sarah said softly. "It's a symbol of hope, for Ashridge, and for everyone who walks through these doors." Jake nodded, the weight of her words settling deep within. It's a new chapter, for me and for the town. A way to give back, to build something lasting. Their conversation was interrupted by the excited bark of a young German shepherd, weaving through the course with boundless energy. Jake smiled, recognizing the same spark that had drawn him and Rex together years before. As days turned to weeks, the center grew, not just in size, but in purpose. Veterans found healing through service, dogs discovered new partners, and the community rallied around a shared vision of strength and resilience. Outside the walls of the center, Ashridge itself flourished. The scars of the past faded, replaced by renewed growth and the steady hum of life reclaimed. Streets once shadowed by fear now echoed with laughter and song, as neighbors came together to celebrate the future they had fought to protect. One evening, Jake stood on a hill overlooking the town, the sky ablaze with the colors of sunset. Rex sat faithfully at his side, the quiet companionship a comfort beyond words. Jake's thoughts drifted to the journey that had brought him here. From the battlefields overseas to the heart of a small town that had become his home. The challenges, the losses, the victories. They all wove together into the tapestry of his life. He felt a deep gratitude for the bonds forged in adversity, for the unyielding loyalty of a dog who had been more than a partner, and for a community that had embraced him not just as a soldier, but as one of their own. As the stars began to pierce the twilight, Jake whispered into the night, "This is where I belong." With Rex by his side and Ashridge in his heart, he stepped forward into a future shaped by courage, hope, and the enduring power of standing together. The story was no longer just his. It was theirs, a testament to the bravery found in unexpected places and the strength born from unity. Together, they walked toward a horizon filled with promise, ready to face whatever the coming days might bring.